There's a new NoName controversy. She added Jay Electric to her new album, a Nation of Islam member, and he is openly spitting anti-Semitic stuff and calling the Ukraine war fake. NoName was defending him. Really? The black woman who I got canceled for saying that she was being kind of bad when she said that she didn't want white people listening to her music might have some problematic... Really? This is the... I'll say it, man. This NoName was so titled and such a shit person that she like gave up on live performances because she hated seeing white people in the crowd. What the is wrong with you? Go, dude, go. I lit like unironically, like go to Africa or something. Like if you don't want to see white people, like I'm unironically doing the love it or leave it shit. What the like take issue with racism or systemic problems or whatever. You seriously gonna perform and do music and then like actually get mad that white people are supporting you? Like this isn't even like a Dave Chappelle bit or whatever, where it's like white people were laughing at my jokes for the wrong reason. She was performing music. No. Cut with the clip chimp jokes. I'm right on this. Literally. How is it? Like, how far away do you have to be from anything even remotely approximating a good attitude towards racial issues where like, that's your shit? Seriously, like, incredibly. That isn't like radical activism. Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party were frequently happy to work with and communicate with white leftists. Like, this isn't even like, oh yeah, man, dude, well, radical black activism means not being around white people. No, it doesn't. Well, according to who? Jesus. Probably the modern Nation of Islam group. Yeah. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Look at the lyrics. I don't know how to read lyrics. I agree with you, but you might want to be... No, stop! This is why I got rid of the neat emote, because it's actually really annoying where every single time I say anything, everyone's like that actually does annoy me because it's actually very distracting when I'm trying to make a point. And then everyone in chat is like essentially jokingly, but also not jokingly saying like, wow, dangerous. It's really not. Stop normalizing that hyper fragile presumption of left spaces by constantly referencing and joking about it. Like, there's nothing weird about anything that I've said during the stream today. Nothing even remote. No sane human could look at the content of this stream and think, oh, that's, like, problematic. It's not. If we're going to normalize the idea that literally everything that I say can be clip-chimped into oblivion, with people splicing sentences or starting and beginning or ending their clips, like, without any pause breaks, cutting things together, leaving out spaces, then I will never win in that environment. So stop normalizing that by suggesting that there's some kind of legitimacy to the clipping, because that's what you're doing. What you're saying is essentially, oh, look at you poorly phrasing things again. No, I'm not. No human could survive the scrutiny of the people who hate me because they're willing to lie about what I say. In an environment like that, there's no way I can phrase the stuff that I have to say. I can't be so calm or level-headed that I avoid their criticism because their criticism comes from a place of bad faith. So what it feels like to me is you're pushing the blame onto me. Oh, look at wacky Vaush again, constantly saying this edgy, abrasive. No, I really don't think it is, genuinely. I think that being a musician and stopping live performances because you don't like seeing white people smiling and cheering and singing along to your music is psychotic. I think it's demon behavior. And I think, unironically, that if that is your attitude towards live performances, there is a continent where you can reliably avoid the presence of white people. I don't think that's even remotely interpretable as racist. And if people are going to clip 4, 8, seconds of something and go off on that, that's their prerogative, but I don't want you guys implying that's on me. It's true, there are multiple continents where you can do that. Jay Electronica literally talks about the synagogue of Satan in his songs. He also sampled Farrakhan in his music. I'm telling you, man, the Blitler shit is going to be, here we go. Fans call out Jay Electronica's verse on NoName's Balloons. His continued closeness to Kanye West. Well, Kanye West has abandoned all racism, of course, because he saw that Jonah Hill movie or whatever. Jay Electronica condemns the Rothschild family and says, quote, have to get my clout back. The figure had an affair with Kate Emma Rothschild, the wife of Benjamin Goldsmith, resulting in the breakdown of their marriage. Anti-Rothschild sentiment, recurring trope for anti-Semitism historically. J. Electronica also seems to take aim at Zelensky and suggests the war in Ukraine is, quote, a hoax, and that the politician, quote, met with the rabbis and the Pope incidentally. He ends by reaffirming his Muslim faith. He's a member of the NOI, but also cites the war on Armageddon. J raps, if anyone asks, tell them Farrakhan sent me. Again, Farrakhan is just explicitly called Jewish people demons. It's the war of Armageddon, and I'm begging the listener, if you ain't fighting, that means you're dead or a prisoner. NoName turned off Instagram comments overnight, causing one fan to observe, how are you going to have an extremely anti-Semitic verse on your album but be too soft for the inevitable backlash? Well, considering the fact that NoName was just doing Blitler shit years ago, like she probably is sympathetic to a lot of the anti-Semitic stuff, Farrakhan is unironically an honorary member of the Ku Klux Klan. Is that true? Remember how many times I've said that the like black separatist groups are literally God's gift to the Klan? They work with them every time. Klan figure met with Farrakhan. Only in the USA. I'm talking about like United States politics. Stuff differs a lot here. Farrakhan clip. I don't want to play like, dude, I'm going to get flagged for hate speech in the stream. Farrakhan is literally like a Nazi dude, man. In an interview, Mr. Metzger, this is the KKK guy, who says he represents the white working class, denied, this is from 1985, by the way, denied that either his group's views or Mr. Farrakhan's were anti-Semitic. Instead, he said they shared a common interest in throwing off what he termed white elitist domination in the hands of corporations and the federal government. Guys, they've been doing this for decades. This, bro, we're actually based and left-pilled, man. We actually want to represent the working class in their battle against corporations. All of the shit that I've said it over the course of my streaming, all of the stuff that I've said, like lefties constantly fall for these traps over and over and over again, it's the same shit. Nazis have always done this. By white, they mean Jewish. Yes, elitist. That's what they mean. They mean Jewish. It's Nazi shit. The Nazis did the same thing. Here's a speech from 1984, nice, where Farrakhan is defending Hitler. Yet Hitler took Germany from the ashes and rose her up and made her the greatest fighting machine of the 20th century, brothers and sisters. Even though Europe and America deciphered the code Hitler was using to speak to his chiefs of staff, they still had trouble defeating Hitler even after knowing his plans in advance. Now, I'm not proud of Hitler's evil towards Jewish people, but that's a matter of record. He rose Germany up from nothing. Well, in a sense, you could say there's a similarity to me in that we are rising our people up from nothing. Spectacular. In a later meeting, Farrakhan said of the Jews, quote, and don't you forget, when it's God who puts you in the ovens, it's forever. Yeah, I'm sure he definitely sincerely condemns the violence that Hitler committed against the Jewish population. He's definitely a very authentic. Dude, when I say Blitler shit for the 5 millionth time, I mean Blitler shit. I don't mean they've made errant comments on Twitter about white people liking mayonnaise. I mean that there is a legitimate historical movement in America of collaborationist black supremacist movements that have identified and replicated essentially just all Nazi talking points, but for black people. And this is who NoName is working with, a person who defends that guy. Yes, the Nazis were not good at war stuff. Congratulations, you took advantage of a momentary leap forward in military tactics by doing blitzkrieg shit. You got a lot of territory early on and spent the last 3.5 years of the war getting bogged down in the Soviet Union and failing to do anything with the Luftwaffe over London. And then slowly but surely you got pushed out of all of the territory that France let you have because they gave up too soon. Well, okay, people overplay the French surrender shit. In reality, France's surrender might have been the best life-saving measure they could have done. They did spend most of the war retreating, yeah. If anyone asks, tell him Farrakhan sent me. Nice. The first time I was called a Kaesler was when I was shitting on Farrakhan in high school. Yeah, the problem with, like, anti-Semitism in the black community is that black people are, let's be real here, poor and powerless compared to white people in the United States. So their anti-Semitism isn't as likely to take root or spread in a material way. But the problem is that the most harm that they've done is through their collaborationism with white supremacists. Think about it, right? Like, Kanye West being anti-Semitic on his own was enough, but he immediately then became a tool for the white supremacist movement in America, which ended up significantly amplifying the reach and power and prominence of what he had to say. Luis Farrakhan himself, and the Nation of Islam itself, doesn't have much power. but they have been used as a figure to point to from white groups for ages. Remember that duo debate that I did with Destiny against those two Nazi retards? I forget their names. Where they were like, we wanted to talk to black people. Real black people know that we're right. And they were like positively citing people like Luis Farrakhan as an example of like, real black people know that the real enemies are the Jews, and therefore we wanted to talk with them and agree. Because what the debate they wanted to have, the initial one they wanted to set up, was one where they would do all their Nazi preaching to a black person to try to get, like, win them over, and then make the argument that actually they're the real racially, like, unified movement. Essentially like, well, we're all shared and unified against the Jewish people or whatever, because that's part of Nazi ideology. The belief that black people are a tool used by Jews to destroy whites, but not necessarily that black people are a knowing tool. So there are Nazis who will make the argument to black people of like, okay, we Nazis believe that you, black people, are inferior to us, but we still have a shared enemy. And guess who falls for that shit hook, line, and sinker? Nation of Islam types, Luis Farrakhan types, who will say, oh, well, I don't think we're racially inferior, but I agree with you on the Jews. And then they team up on that. And that's been the dynamic for like decades in terms of anti-Semitism in this country. I'll just say this, okay? I guarantee you, talk to a Jewish person who's grown up in a non-Jewish majority neighborhood. There aren't that many black people in Beverly Hills, so I grew up in a very Jewish neighborhood, so this isn't really applicable there. But just a Jew who lives in an area that's like very racially diverse or religiously or ethnically or whatever. You've noticed anti-Semitism from black people, haven't you? Right? Like, weirdly so, haven't you? In ways you wouldn't expect, because when we associate anti-Semitism with a group of people, we associate with white people because white people were the Nazis, right? But so you don't think like, oh, well, black people why would black people be anti-Semitic? Black people and Jews have both been historically victimized by white people. But in reality, it's more complicated than that. Yes, they have, but that doesn't mean that scapegoating hasn't happened. I'm just saying, I'm not making the argument that black people are a greater threat to Jewish people than white people. They're not. I'm making the argument that anti-Semitism within the black community often goes unaddressed in a way that I find really toxic, in large part because a big portion of the fight against anti-Semitism has been a fight against white supremacy, and that doesn't affect black anti-Semites, obviously. In fact, it strengthens a lot of their presumptions because they argue that their anti-Semitism is a component of their rejection of white supremacy. Because they don't think that Jews were the real Jews. That's the Nation of Islam or Black Hebrew Israelite shit. Vaush, reminder that a vast majority of black people are not like this. Yeah, of course. A vast majority of black people aren't like this. But for black people who are like this, I think they get away with it a lot more. I mean, can you imagine a white rapper randomly saying like, yeah, man, if anyone asks, tell me David Duke sent me? Because Farrakhan and David Duke are ideological contemporaries. Like, can you, like, just a random rapper being like, yeah, man, David Duke sent me. Like, what? Wait, what? Like, that guy would be fucking nuked from orbit. Yeah, unless you're, like, a conservative singer like Tom MacDonald. But in terms of, like, Tom MacDonald is doing a very specific political thing. But you understand how that would read different, right? A lot of people don't even think of Luis Farrakhan as a hate figure. A lot of them just think of him as like, oh, he's the Nation of Islam guy, you know? Yes, black separatists do often blame Jews for slavery, much the same way that Nazis do. Yeah. Farrakhan blames Jews for the slave trade, plantation slavery, Jim Crow sharecropping, and other general black oppression. Are you aware Farrakhan has deep ties to Scientology? I think I remember hearing that, but I haven't looked into it. How does that work? White Nazis also say the Jews were responsible for the slave trade. By the way, Jews were not responsible for the slave trade. Thank you, SDL, for clarifying that. It should, of course, be noted that, yes, they were absolutely not. White Nazis, and I guess Blotzis as well, will argue that they were, with no evidence at all. It's literally like, here's one Jewish guy who owned a slave ship, and like, here's one community of Jews who had slaves. Ignore the entire country. It's like, it's literally, it's like nothing. It is the most made up shit in the universe. One guy, literally one guy. FD Signifier unironically did an amazing video critiquing NOI. You should watch sometime. Maybe. Though I wonder if his critique wouldn't be constantly peppered with this, like, well, keep in mind, this isn't the same as when white Nazis say the exact same things. That being said, though, I feel like the people who got mad at me for my initial criticisms of NoName are the kinds of people who would agree with FD Signifier, which makes me wonder, if we agree that Luis Farrakhan is bad, and should we not then agree that NoName is a collaborationist for anti-Semitism for having lyrics in the song which directly like promote Farrakhan, like having an anti-Semite on and then having him directly go like, yeah, man, Black David Duke sent me. Why does this not like go to NoName? Why does this not hit her? You know, because if she was white and these were all white people, it would, like unambiguously, it would. So why is it different? He sort of glorifies Farrakhan's community out. Okay, hold on. Am I willing to do this? Do I have time for this? This is an hour 47 minutes. I don't have time for this. The real faces of black conservatism.
I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders.
I want to note, by the way, that I do not think that FD Signifier is like in any way aligned with or responsible for NoName's behavior because they're both black. I think he is responsible for it because they're both idiots. Just to be clear. And if anyone thinks that's too harsh on him, you should go watch the video he did on me, because I have never been as uncharitable to him as he has to me. Wait, man, a bunch of clips of a bunch of people get played here. No. So much.
All you scared to death Negroes.
Yeah.
We are outside, outright of one of NOI, which stands for Nation of Islam. I'm from Chicago, the headquarters of NOI.
Allah. Satanic Jews.
I grew up in Chicago under the Islamic practices of FD Muhammad, the actual legitimate son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who created the NOI years before all this happened. FD Muhammad was supposed to be in Farrakhan's place. He was expected to take over the—
All right, I'm bored now. Video's too long. Sorry. I got a half-black daughter, so it's so... Oh, yeah, these people, like Farrakhan, you know, hate mixed-race people for the same reason Nazis do. Generally speaking, racial supremacists hate mixed-race people more than they hate people of other races, because mixed-race people are to them an abomination that represents a divergence from the natural order and an encouragement for more miscegenation in the future, whereas people of other races are just an obstacle to global supremacy. It's 2 years old, but here's FD Signifier's old take on NoName. Can we just... Okay, I think we should just, like, end this or whatever, but can we just acknowledge one thing, which is this is yet another example of me being right? Like, 2 or 3 years ago, I got a ton of heat on Twitter and on stream for saying that NoName was doing some Blitler shit with this weird exclusion of white people, and now, predictably, like clockwork, associating with, like, Luis Farrakhan praise. I'm just saying, I just see this shit, you know? It's like how just a little while ago, right, Count Dankula was like, man, Vaush was so f***ed up for saying I was racist with no proof. And then somebody in his audience was like, well, wait, you are a racist though, right? And he was like, yeah, I am. It's like, okay, I know everything. I know everything all the time. I see all things. I see through you. I know your ideology better than you, with everyone at all points. Somebody, say me if you want me to determine your ideology. Say me in chat if you want me to get you. I'm gonna guess it. I'm gonna guess it. All right, we're rolling the dice. Okay, TV fathers, I see you. You're a retard. I know I'm right. You're in VGG. Another dub racked up. I would have gotten a lot of you, wouldn't I? I would have. Is this your card? And I'm holding nothing but Queen of Hearts. Just a full stack. More than 52. And I hold them facing you as I do it.